So here we're starting the instrument panel, and you can see that is partially folded, a partially folded gun sight. And there are the instruments, and you can see what I've done is I've poked out the instrument bezels themselves. I use something called a punch. I'll show you later how that works, but you just basically poke those holes out. And then there are these other parts that are thicker cardboard that actually have the instruments on them. Now what I've done is I've put a piece of candy wrapper. I've glued a piece of candy wrapping paper onto the front of these. That's so when you sandwich these separate pieces over the instruments, it'll look like glass. It looks really cool when it works right. Now I'm a little nervous here because I have to just glue these on with, in this case, super glue, I think, because of the plastic. But it really looks nice if it works, and so we'll see how she goes. So that's sort of the idea. You don't have to do that. The kit comes with the instruments already in, and you don't have to do what I'm doing, but I thought it'd be cool. There's some super glue, thick super glue, and what I'm going to do is use that pin over there and try to very carefully put some glue on these pieces. And I have to put the glue around very carefully in such a way that you don't ruin the instrument face. But if you put too much on, it'll squish into those. You don't want that. But you got to put enough on so everything holds together. Because later you have to trim off all that clear plastic. There are certainly other ways to do this. You can actually, you don't have to put a piece of plastic between. You can put a piece of, sandwich put the top instrument over the bezels, make them look nice. And then when everything's dry, you can drop a little piece of, or a little drip of epoxy into those, clear epoxy. And that will give you a beautiful glass looking piece too. I just thought I would do this, which probably is more work than it needs to be. Now this is dicey because now I got super glue on there, so you got one chance to put these puppies on there. So you have to be very careful, and you have to compare what things are going to look like and get it just so there isn't much room for maneuvering and adjusting. And in this case, I actually got it to work. Unbelievable. Usually I put it on crooked, so I was very, very lucky. And I'm just making sure it's glued, is making contact. They're going to be nice and solid. And that will dry pretty quick. And you have now an instrument cluster, and when you move it, you can see in the light, you can see that you see those areas where you just see reflection over the bezels. So I keep trying to show the camera this, and you certainly get the idea. But again, you can get the same effect by putting a drop of epoxy in there as well. So you do the same thing with this lower piece. But moving on to this part, this is the gun sight. And so I did like I did before. I pre-folded everything. I grooved it. This time I grooved it with a pin because it's very, very thin. I didn't use that larger piece of piano wire. And here I'm just desperately trying to get this thing together in my big fingers to get it approximately to the right shape. It's going to be sort of rectangular, and it's going to end up having another little tiny piece of glass or plastic on it that will make it look nice. So here I started to add a little glue here and there. The glue also moistens the paper a little bit and actually helps it bend a little easier. So sometimes putting a little glue on is not only helping for the gluing, but it helps with the consistency. Now in this case, this is a hard piece because it's very small. And there's probably better ways to do this. My way is to pre-fold it, make sure it fits, and then apply the glue and refold it. Invariably, it doesn't fit as well as it did when you tested it, but in this case, just like with the seat, a little prodding, a little pushing, just a little dinking around here and there, and things start to get solid, and you start to get a nice three-dimensional piece. I don't know how accurate this is for the real airplane. I'm not a 109 aficionado, but I wanted to build it as it came in the kit as much as possible. There's this other little piece that folds down, and so I'm putting little glue bits on those contact areas. And I really put a lot on there. That's kind of a mistake. Oh yeah, then go ahead and wipe them off. Make sure if you do that with your tools, especially your nice tweezers, you clean them quick. Then I'm folding that little piece down and squeezing gently with my fingers. And again, the glue, that tacky stuff glues quick, and you end up with this little eeny teeny weeny gun sight. That will look very nice. It ends up fitting in the instrument panel where there's a cutout on the top here. You can see that little rectangular cutout on the top. That's where this is going to fit right there and protrude into the pilot's face almost. And that'll look really good. Tiny, but good. This again, when you fold a small box, especially when it's dark, the edges will crinkle and you'll get white showing through. So I'm just touching them up with a little bit of gray pencil. You can even leave them on because plastic models, you do lots of dry brushing with lighter colors and you would hit all those high corners and they make it look, give it some interest and stuff. So it's really up to you what you want to do. I just decided to go ahead and be consistent and try to hide all those little places where things are white. If you follow along, I'll do this less because obviously you know at this point you want to hide those edges. And here's the finished article. Got the sight in there, and it's hard to tell. I'm just flipping this back and forth. I've cut off the edges of the clear plastic, and I put a little square piece of plastic I cut out from the bottom of a vegetable container. There it is, kind of see it. That's for his Revy gun sight. And you can see at some points when you move the instruments, you can certainly see the glass in there.